As Ethan gathered his belongings and got ready to take his daughters to school, he couldn't help but appreciate the beauty of the day. The sun was shining, and there was a gentle breeze in the air. He felt grateful for this moment. As he loaded his daughters into the car, they chatted and laughed, excited for the day ahead. As he drove, Ethan couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and joy, seeing his daughters growing up into beautiful young ladies. As they arrived at the school, Ethan said his goodbyes to them and watched them walk through the gates. After that, he drove to the office. Ethan walked confidently through the bustling offices of Arnold & Associates, a leading business consultancy firm. As the chief executive officer, his days were a blend of strategic decision-making, innovative project development, and nurturing client relationships. Known for his groundbreaking approaches in business strategy, particularly in leveraging emerging technologies, Ethan had transformed his company into a beacon of innovation and success in the business world. His office, lined with shelves displaying books on the latest business theories and market trends, was a testament to his dedication to continuous learning. On his desk, amidst an array of reports and data analysis tools, stood a miniature model of a globe, symbolizing his company's international reach and his global perspective on business. Despite his many achievements, Ethan carried his success with modesty. His colleagues admired him for his calm and strategic approach, particularly in high-stakes negotiations and crucial business decisions. More than just a shrewd businessman, Ethan was also a mentor, investing time in guiding young professionals in their careers. His passion for business was matched by his commitment to staying ahead of industry trends, often leading his firm to adopt innovative practices that set new standards in the industry. Ethan's success was not just measured in profit margins and market shares, but also in the respect and trust he earned from his clients and the gratitude of the professionals he mentored. His ability to blend sharp business acumen with a genuine concern for the well-being and development of his team made him not just a leader in his field, but a respected and admired figure in the business community. Today marked a milestone in his life as he prepared to launch his foundation. Months of meticulous planning and organization for the event were finally coming to fruition, a dream he nurtured to profoundly impact the lives of those battling cancer. But what made this day truly heartwarming was the presence of his parents. Ethan had arranged for his parents to fly in from their quaint hometown. The moment they arrived, the air was filled with an emotional mix of pride and joy. His mother's eyes brimmed with tears as she looked around the venue, her heart swelling at the thought of her son making such a significant difference. His father, usually reserved, wore a broad smile, his eyes reflecting a sense of fulfillment as he witnessed the culmination of their hard work. The foundation's launch was more than just a professional endeavor for Ethan. It held a profound and deeply personal significance. Ethan grew up in a small, cozy town up north, where life was simple but not always easy. His family didn't have a lot of money. His dad worked hard, fixing trucks at the local garage all day to make ends meet, while his mom was a nurse, caring for people at the town's hospital. He had an older brother, Tom. When they were kids, Ethan and Tom didn't always get along. Ethan was a bit grumpy and got annoyed easily, especially with Tom. He would often go to his parents complaining, "Tom won't share his toys with me," even when it wasn't really true. Tom, on the other hand, was more laid back. He liked playing with Ethan and didn't mind the small fights too much. Their parents usually took Ethan's side, though. His mom would often say to Tom, "You need to be nice to your little brother," making Tom feel a bit unfair. But Tom never held it against Ethan. He knew that's just how little brothers could be sometimes. Ethan was really smart in school. He was great at math and learning new languages. Understanding hard stuff like big ideas and theories was easy for him. He always caught on to new things super fast. His big brother, Tom, wasn't the same in school. Tom found schoolwork tough and often got low grades, but he loved sports. He was awesome at basketball and baseball in junior high, and everyone knew him for being great at playing them. Even though he loved sports, keeping up with school was hard for Tom when he was busy with games and practice. When Tom was 7, he got really sick with an infection. Their parents tried lots of medicines for 2 weeks, but nothing worked. Then the doctors gave him strong antibiotics. They finally made him better, but something wasn't right after that. Tom didn't seem to hear when their parents called him. One day, their mom said worriedly to their dad, "Do you notice Tom isn't here as lately?" After a few tests, the doctors discovered that the antibiotics had affected Tom's hearing, making it hard for him to hear well. This was a big change for Tom and the whole family. While their parents were at work, Tom took on the role of looking after his younger brother and handling the household chores. Their family had a cozy garden filled with apple trees and various vegetables, a place Tom loved. He always jumped at the chance to work in the garden, finding peace in the outdoor tasks. It was a bright spring day, and the family was busy in their garden. Tom was busy digging a spot for a new apple tree, while his mom was weeding the vegetable patch not too far away. Suddenly, she realized she needed water for the plants. "Tom, can you grab me the water bucket, please?" she called out, expecting him to hear. But Tom, with his impaired hearing, didn't respond. Ethan, noticing his brother didn't hear their mom, tried to get Tom's attention by tossing a small stone towards him, but it missed. Emily, Tom's mom, called out again, "Tom?" Still no response. She felt a surge of frustration, thinking he was ignoring her. She marched over to him and asked, a bit sternly, "Tom, didn't you hear me calling you?" Tom looked up, startled and confused. He saw the frustration on his mom's face and felt a wave of fear and confusion. He didn't know why she was upset, not realizing she hadn't remembered his hearing issue. "Tom, why aren't you answering me? I've been calling your name for the past 5 minutes," she exclaimed, her voice tinged with annoyance and concern. "Do I really have to shout every time I need you?" Tom, looking up from his digging, saw the irritation in his mother's eyes and felt a pang of guilt. He struggled to find the right words, feeling the weight of the misunderstanding. "Mom, I didn't hear you," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry, I just didn't hear." Emily paused, her expression softening as she remembered Tom's hearing impairment. "Oh, Tom, I forgot. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have gotten upset," she said, her tone shifting to one of remorse. "It's just been a long day, and I forgot you might not hear me." As time passed, Tom's family, especially his mother Emily, tried to adapt to his hearing impairment, but it wasn't easy. Emily often found herself getting frustrated when Tom didn't respond to her calls. Her voice would rise in volume, her words sharp with irritation, which only made communication more stressful for Tom. One afternoon, while they were all in the kitchen, Emily called out to Tom to set the table. When he didn't respond, her patience snapped. "Tom, how many times do I have to say it?" she shouted, her voice echoing off the walls. Tom, startled, turned around. "I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't hear you," he replied, his voice tinged with anxiety. He could feel the tension in the room, the constant fear of missing something important always looming over him. Ethan sometimes didn't make things easier. During their arguments, Ethan would often resort to mocking Tom's hearing impairment. "What? Can't hear me?" Ethan would sneer, even though he knew Tom probably couldn't hear the insults. Ironically, most of the time, Tom was oblivious to Ethan's hurtful words, but the knowledge that he was being mocked lingered in his mind, adding to his growing sense of isolation. This constant strain and worry began to take a toll on Tom. The fear of not hearing when called, the anxiety of missing out on conversations or instructions led to an unexpected issue: bedwetting. Tom, already grappling with the challenges of his impairment, now had to deal with this new, embarrassing problem, adding another layer of distress to his young life. His mother, upon discovering this, felt a mix of concern and frustration. "Tom, you're too old for this," she said one morning, her tone a blend of worry and exasperation. "Is there something you're not telling me?" Tom, feeling ashamed and overwhelmed, didn't know how to explain the anxiety that had been building up inside him. He just shrugged, wishing he could express how the fear of not hearing and the constant misunderstandings were affecting him deeply. With Tom's bedwetting becoming a new secret burden, Ethan found yet another way to taunt his brother. Whenever they had disagreements, Ethan would bring it up, using it as a weapon to get his way. At school, things weren't much better for Tom. His hearing impairment made him an easy target for teasing. While some teachers were sympathetic and tried to accommodate his needs, others seemed at a loss, uncertain how to support him. They even suggested to Tom's parents that they should find a way to fix his hearing issue. One afternoon, the tension at home reached a new peak. Ethan was eating his lunch when he accidentally knocked his bowl of soup, spilling it across the floor. Tom, hearing the clatter, came in and saw the mess. "Hey, Ethan, you need to clean this up," Tom said, trying to keep his tone calm. Ethan, still upset over spilling his soup, just shook his head and darted away, leaving Tom standing in a puddle of soup. Frustrated, Tom chased after him, grabbing Ethan's ear to stop him. "You can't just run off like that," he exclaimed. Ethan, caught off guard, started crying loudly from the surprise and pain, falling to the floor. After a moment, he got up, wiped his tears, and quietly sneaked up behind Tom. "You're such a baby, always wetting the bed," Ethan whispered spitefully, knowing Tom couldn't hear him clearly. "Can't even hear a thing, can you?" Tom sensed Ethan was saying something hurtful, but couldn't catch the words. The look on Ethan's face was enough to understand the intent. Feeling a mix of sadness and frustration, Tom turned away, deciding not to engage further. He went back to the kitchen, grabbed a cloth, and started wiping the spilled soup by himself. The silence in the house was heavy, filled with unspoken words and growing divides. The family's financial struggles were a constant weight, and Ethan, being young, often didn't understand the constraints. One day, while at the grocery store, he spotted a bright red fire truck toy and immediately wanted it. "We can't afford it, Ethan. You have plenty of toys at home," Emily said gently, trying to reason with him. But Ethan, fixated on the toy, began to cry loudly, tugging at her sleeve. Emily, already worn down by the stresses of the day, snapped back. "Ethan, I said no. We're not getting the truck." Tom, silently watching the scene unfold, placed groceries on the counter, feeling a mix of empathy and helplessness. A few days later, feeling the weight of his family's financial struggles, Tom decided to take matters into his own hands. He left school early, skipping math class, which seemed pointless as his teachers hardly noticed him anymore. Roaming the neighborhood, he knocked on doors, offering to do chores for some extra cash. At the third house, an elderly woman, Mrs. Tomnett, greeted him. "Can I help you with any work for a bit of money?" Tom asked politely. Mrs. Tomnett smiled, relieved. She had several bags of garden soil in her backyard that she couldn't move herself. Tom set to work, hauling the heavy bags as the afternoon faded into evening. Exhausted but satisfied, he accepted the money Mrs. Tomnett offered him and hurried to the store before it closed. He bought the shiny red fire truck, tucking it carefully into his backpack, and raced home. When he arrived, Emily was waiting, her worry turning into frustration. "Tom, where have you been? It's late." Tom, catching his breath, replied, "I had a big assignment in school, Mom. It took longer than I thought." He didn't want to worry her with the truth, nor did he want to spoil the surprise for Ethan. Emily's frustration was evident as she confronted Tom. "What homework? You never have homework, Tom. And why are you covered in dirt? Were you messing around with Josh again?" Her voice was a mix of worry and exasperation. Tom hesitated, unsure of how to explain without revealing his secret effort to buy the toy for Ethan. "It was just a group project, Mom. We had to collect some soil samples." He lied, hoping she'd believe him. Emily's tension and frustration, which often spilled over into her interactions with her family, had roots that went much deeper than the surface-level challenges they faced daily. Her marriage with Harold had evolved into something far from the fairy tale she had once imagined. As a young woman, Emily had been utterly captivated by Harold's charm and grand dreams. He had a way of making the future seem bright and full of possibilities. She had envisioned a glamorous life in the city filled with excitement and adventure, a stark contrast to her current reality. Their financial difficulties began to strain the marriage early on. Emily, who was used to a comfortable lifestyle provided by her affluent parents, struggled to adapt to their more modest living conditions. Harold, who came from a working-class family, worked tirelessly to make ends meet, but it was never quite enough. He couldn't give Emily the luxurious life she had been accustomed to, and this gap between expectation and reality became a constant source of tension. "Harold, when will things change? When will we live the life you promised me?" Emily would often ask in moments of despair, her voice tinged with a mixture of hope and disappointment. Harold, feeling the weight of unmet promises, would reply, "I'm trying, Emily. I'm doing all I can. But these things take time." Emily's parents had been skeptical of Harold from the beginning, warning her that the marriage was doomed to face hardships. Despite her defiance at the time, Emily now found herself questioning her decision, her parents' words echoing in her mind during her weaker moments. This underlying discontent often manifested in her interactions with her children, unintentionally letting her own frustrations affect her patience and understanding. Harold and Emily's unfulfilled dreams and the stark reality of their life created an atmosphere of unspoken disappointment, affecting not just their relationship but also the overall mood in the household. When Tom was born, Emily's discontent only grew. Raising a child with limited resources was challenging, and she often found herself comparing her current life unfavorably with her affluent upbringing. Harold felt the strain too, distancing himself from Emily's family and their criticisms. He had once promised Emily that he would make all her dreams come true, but as years passed, that promise seemed more and more like a distant dream. The stress of Emily and Harold's strained relationship, coupled with their ongoing financial struggles, cast a shadow over the household. This tension didn't go unnoticed by Tom, who felt the growing responsibility to lift the spirits of his family, especially his younger brother Ethan. His latest effort was a secret mission to buy Ethan the toy fire truck he had longed for. Standing before his parents, Tom's clothes were stained with mud from the day's work. Emily, already frayed from the day's challenges, lost her temper at the sight. "Tom, look at the state of you. How can you just stand there smiling? Go and clean up now," she scolded. But Tom's smile didn't waver. Hidden in his backpack was the reason for his joy, the fire truck for Ethan. He knew the scolding was worth it. Ethan, in the way of younger siblings, found humor in Tom's predicament, giggling at the scene. His innocence shielded him from understanding the full picture, his world still simple and unburdened by the complexities troubling his parents. Once the commotion had died down and Emily's attention was elsewhere, Tom beckoned Ethan to the bathroom. With a conspiratorial grin, he reached into his backpack and carefully pulled out the shiny red fire truck. Ethan's eyes lit up with pure delight at the sight of it. He was so overcome with excitement that he started bouncing around the room, his laughter echoing off the tiles. In his enthusiasm, he accidentally bumped into the metal bucket by the bathtub, sending it clattering to the floor. The noise drew a sharp reprimand from Emily, but it couldn't dampen the brothers' joy. In that small bathroom, with the toy truck in Ethan's hands, the worries of their world seemed to momentarily fade away. Seeing Ethan so happy with the fire truck made Tom feel really good inside. He was proud that he could make his little brother smile like that. Tom loved Ethan a whole lot, and seeing him jump around and laugh with the joy in his hands was one of the best feelings in the world for Tom. It was like he had done something really special just for Ethan. The sound of laughter and the loud clatter of the bucket drew Emily's attention, and she hurried to the bathroom. Her expression turned from concern to anger as she saw the shiny red fire truck in Ethan's hands. Both boys instantly quieted down, sensing their mother's rising temper. "Where did you get that truck?" Emily demanded, looking directly at Tom. Tom remained silent, unsure of how to explain without revealing the truth. "Tom, I asked you a question. Where did you get it?" Emily's voice grew sharper with each word. After another moment of silence, suspicion crept into her tone. You didn't steal it from the store, did you? You're acting just like your father. Answer me, Tom." Tom felt a knot from his stomach. He managed a faint smile, not out of disrespect, but out of nervousness. He couldn't tell her that he had skipped class to earn the money for the truck. He knew that would only make things worse, so he stood there, head bowed, silently hoping that his mother would just let the matter go. Ethan, sensing the tension, clutched the fire truck a little tighter, his earlier joy fading into confusion and worry. The atmosphere in the bathroom had shifted from one of happiness to one of apprehension, the joy of the new toy overshadowed by their mother's anger and Tom's dilemma. The misunderstanding about the fire truck weighed heavily on Emily's mind, leading her to believe that Tom must have stolen it. Determined to set things right, she marched back to the store with Tom trailing behind her, his mind racing with worry about the consequences he might face. Upon reaching the store, Emily approached the cashier with a mix of embarrassment and resolve. "I'm sorry to bother you, but my son may have taken this toy without paying," she said, holding up the fire truck. "We couldn't afford it, and I'm afraid they might have stolen it." The cashier looked at the toy and then at Tom, a look of recognition crossing his face. "Actually, your son paid for this truck earlier today," he responded with a reassuring smile. "He did?" Emily's voice was a mix of surprise and confusion. "Yes, ma'am. He came in, paid for it, and left. No issues at all." Outside the store, the tension between Emily and Tom lingered. Finally, Emily asked, "Tom, where did you get the money for this?" Tom hesitated for a moment before explaining about the odd jobs he did for Mrs. Tomnett, including moving the heavy bags of soil. He kept his gaze fixed on the ground, not sure how his mother would react. As they walked home in silence, Emily was deep in thought. Tom didn't notice at first, but tears were silently streaming down Emily's cheeks. She was overwhelmed with a mix of guilt and admiration. Guilt for having doubted her son's integrity and admiration for his selflessness and hard work. In her mind, she replayed the many times she had been quick to judge or scold, realizing now that her son had been shouldering burdens far beyond his years. This moment of revelation was a turning point for Emily, a painful yet necessary awakening to the depth of character her young son possessed. As the years rolled by, the family's financial struggles persisted, and so did the undercurrent of discontent in their household. Emily frequently voiced her dissatisfaction to her husband about their modest living conditions, the cramped house, the aging car, and the myriad of comforts she felt she was missing out on. In the midst of this, Tom had grown into a sophomore in high school. Academically, he struggled. His teachers, having seemingly given up on him, paid him little attention. However, Tom found his passion and success in sports, which brought him a sense of achievement and joy. Ethan, 3 years Tom's junior, was flourishing in a different arena. He had a knack for math, frequently winning competitions and earning recognition as a promising student. Despite their age difference, Tom and Ethan shared a special bond over mathematics. Tom, often baffled by basic arithmetic, would pose simple problems to Ethan, who would solve them with astonishing speed. These moments were not only fun, but also a source of immense pride for Tom. He admired his younger brother's intelligence and often bragged about Ethan's achievements to anyone who would listen. Noticing that most of Ethan's friends had bicycles and seeing the longing in Ethan's eyes whenever they rode past, Tom yearned to do something about it. He didn't have the means to buy a bike, but he came up with a plan. One day, he struck a deal with a friend, trading his cherished baseball gloves for a day's use of the friend's bike. When Tom rode up to Ethan on the bike, the look of surprise and joy on Ethan's face was worth more than any possession. Ethan was over the moon with excitement. Tom dedicated the entire day to his brother, patiently pushing the bike from behind and guiding Ethan as he wobbled and pedaled. The sight of Ethan gradually gaining balance and confidence on the bike filled Tom with a deep sense of happiness and contentment. Their laughter and shouts of excitement echoed through the neighborhood, a rare and cherished moment of carefree joy amidst the challenges of their everyday life. Near the end of his sophomore year, Tom suddenly started feeling really unwell. His hearing got even worse, and he began to lose weight very fast. Within just a few weeks, he found it hard to walk around. He felt so tired all the time and just wanted to lie down. His parents were worried and confused because they didn't know what was wrong. When the doctors did some blood tests, they found out Tom had leukemia. They had found it too late, and the treatment didn't start in time. Tom became bedridden, unable to get up or walk by himself. Emily and Harold took turns missing work to stay home and take care of him. Tom got so weak that he couldn't even eat by himself. Emily fed him soft food and porridge, while Harold helped him get to the bathroom whenever he needed to go. Harold worked really hard to pay for everything. He even got a second job to help with the medical bills. At night, he would sit in the dark kitchen, quietly crying, while Emily stayed by Tom's side. After about 6 months, Tom started to lose his eyesight. Ethan, who was about to turn 12, didn't really understand what was happening at first, but as time went on, he began to realize how serious Tom's illness was. He became quieter each day, watching his big brother get sicker. Ethan would sit next to Tom for hours, asking him to play math games like they used to, but Tom could hardly move. He would just breathe heavily and stare blankly. Sometimes, he tried to turn his head towards Ethan's voice and say something, but Ethan couldn't understand him. One early morning, Ethan cried for the first time because he felt so bad for Tom. He didn't even go to school, even though he had an important math competition practice. Instead, he sat on the edge of Tom's bed, holding his hand, crying softly. His tears fell onto Tom's hand. Ethan looked at his brother, who was just lying there, his eyes open but not really seeing anything. He remembered all the times Tom had been there for him, like when he got him the red fire truck or spent hours helping him learn to ride a bike. Those memories made him cry even more. Ethan sat by Tom's bed, his voice trembling as he spoke to his brother. "I love you, Tom. Can you hear me? I love you so much. Please try to get up." His voice grew more desperate. "Come on, Tom. You have to get up. You promised you'd take me to the lake. Don't break your promise, Tom." He paused, fighting back tears, then pleaded softly. "Let's play our math game, just like we used to. Please, Tom, ask me a math question. I'll get it right, I promise." As he sat there, memories of their past began to flood Ethan's mind. He remembered the times he had mocked Tom for his hearing problems, the cruel laughter when Tom couldn't catch what others said. He thought about the moments he had made fun of Tom for wetting the bed, pinching his nose in disgust. These memories, once trivial childhood squabbles, now twisted in Ethan's heart, filling him with regret and self-loathing. "I was so mean to you, Tom. I'm so sorry," he whispered, his voice cracking with emotion. He looked at his brother, lying motionless, and his heart ached. The playful, caring brother who had once pushed him on a bike, who had gone out of his way to get him a toy fire truck, now lay silent and unresponsive. The weight of his past actions and the current reality of Tom's condition overwhelmed Ethan. He felt a deep sense of guilt and sorrow, wishing he could turn back time and cherish every moment with Tom, be kinder and appreciate the love and care his brother had always shown him. Ethan was sitting close to Tom, his voice soft and full of hope. "Tom, please listen. I'm so sorry. Let's go to the lake, okay? Just you and me. We can ride in a boat and have a great time. Please, Tom, say something." Suddenly, Tom turned his head a little towards Ethan. A weak smile appeared on his lips, and he slowly lifted his arm, motioning for Ethan to come closer. Ethan's heart leaped with excitement, and he called out loudly, "Mom, Dad, Tom's looking at me. He's really looking. Come quick." Emily and Harold hurried into the room, their faces lighting up as they saw Tom looking at them too. They gathered around his bed, and Tom seemed to be trying to say something. It was hard for him, but he was trying. Tom's voice was barely a whisper. "What is it, honey?" Emily leaned in, trying to hear him. "Ethan, promise me," Tom managed to say. "Promise to send Ethan to a good school. He's smart, way smarter than me. He's got a bright future." Tears started rolling down Emily's cheeks as she listened to Tom's words. Harold, holding Tom's hand, wept quietly too, moved by the love and care Tom showed for his brother even in his own difficult time. Emily gently cradled Tom's head, kissing his forehead tenderly. "We love you so much, Tom," she said softly. "Please forgive us. You're our precious boy." The evening after Tom made his heartfelt request, the family faced the unimaginable. Tom passed away. The loss was profound and sudden, leaving everyone in a state of deep grief. Ethan, overwhelmed by the loss of his beloved brother, screamed and cried inconsolably for 3 days straight, unable to come to terms with the reality that Tom was gone. In the days following the funeral, a heavy silence hung over the house. Emily and Harold, each lost in their own sorrow, found words inadequate to express their pain. They barely spoke to each other, the quiet only broken by the occasional sounds of daily life. About a month after Tom's passing, Emily was in his room, folding his clothes, a task that felt both mundane and heart-wrenching. It was then that Ethan entered the room. His eyes, still red from tears, scanned the room that once buzzed with his brother's presence. "Mom, can I keep Tom's clothes? Can I wear them?" he asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. There was a vulnerability in his request, a longing to hold on to something tangible of Tom. Emily looked up, her heart aching at the request, but she understood his need to feel close to Tom. "Of course, Ethan. You can keep whatever you want," she replied, her voice thick with emotion. The house remained quiet in the following weeks. The absence of Tom's laughter and chatter left a noticeable void. Ethan, who had always been buoyed by his brother's presence, now retreated further into silence. His world, once filled with shared jokes and playful bickering, felt empty. Remembering Tom's last words, Ethan found a new purpose amidst his grief. He dedicated himself to his studies, channeling all his energy into excelling academically. It was his way of honoring Tom, of keeping a promise to his brother who believed in him so much. He worked tirelessly, driven by the memory of Tom's faith in his potential and the desire to fulfill the future that Tom had envisioned for him. As Ethan stood on the cusp of adulthood, graduating high school and looking towards college, Harold made significant sacrifices to ensure his son could pursue higher education. He sold nearly everything he could to fund Ethan's studies. The commitment paid off when 4 years later, Ethan graduated from a prestigious business school, laying the foundation for a successful career. He started his own company, which over time grew into a significant holding. In the midst of his burgeoning career, Ethan met Amanda, a kind and beautiful woman of Latin American heritage. She embodied all the qualities Ethan had hoped to find in a partner. Their connection was instant and deep, leading to a loving marriage and the joy of 3 beautiful daughters. One morning, as Ethan watched his daughters get into the car for school, he instructed his driver to pick up his parents from the airport. They were arriving for a very special occasion, the opening ceremony of the Tom Arnold's Cancer Treatment Foundation. The ceremony was a significant event for the city, attracting attention and anticipation. Ethan, standing at the podium, delivered a heartfelt speech. Tom Arnold was a man with an immense and pure heart. He shaped me into the person I am today, he said, his voice filled with emotion. My brother taught me the values of love and kindness, lessons I carry with me every day. In the front row, Harold and Emily Arnold sat hand in hand, tears streaming down their faces as they listened to their son honor the memory of their late son. Amanda, sitting proudly with their daughters beside Ethan's parents, beamed with happiness and pride. She felt incredibly fortunate to be part of Ethan's life, to share in his journey and his achievements. That evening, the family gathered for dinner at home, sharing memories of Tom. Ethan often dreamt of his brother, in dreams where Tom brought him sweets and carried them on his back. These dreams were a bittersweet reminder of the bond they shared. Ethan deeply missed Tom and often reflected on how love and kindness are life's most precious gifts, sometimes fully appreciated only in the wake of loss.